So in part one, I talked about the whore that rode the betas. I apologize for the noise that came. I try to push it through anyway. Here's part two. The sages were replacing the warrior orders, the old Capitoline triad versus the new, right? The new was Zeus, Minerva, and Juno. Okay, so it's Jupiter, Zeus, Juno, Hera, and Minerva. I think Athena may be the counterpart. That's a new triad. Okay, the old triad was more warrior based. It had some, I don't remember who it was, Quineris Mars or one of these guys who was a warrior guy. Anyway, the Hindus had their difference. The warriors laid down the foundation, the sages replaced them. Eventually Dionysus, comes through, Alexander the Great and so on and so forth. The Greeks kind of have their way over there. And eventually the British and so on, the colonization, and you get it, they reinforce the sage angle. Egypt, the Igbos, the Maori had the movie We Once Were Warriors, and on and on. Basically the warriors laid the foundation, they were front and center, and then here comes the sages. And this is where we get the new age kind of mental health, kind of the sages meditating in the woods naked or whatever. Okay. So controlling the opposition was the Ivy League schools, academia, the old money. There's a small group, they make the argument that, hey, look at the masses of sheep just doing what they're told. Certainly this is not preferable for our children. It's better that a small group of betas, academia, basically leads everybody. And of course they're sexually immoral. They're in sex cults. The O is the reproductive cycle. Occult. It's the hidden. It's like, what is your secret? And they actually get close to the person and they start dating them and da-da-da-da-da. So the more people look up to these people for more reasons than one, the more they're having sex with them. And eugenics is about controlling sexual behavior. I can go on and on and on. All right. So now this video, we'll talk about the songs of songs. Briefly, it's basically it gives you the impression this black female is saying she hopes that King Solomon doesn't hold against her black skin, okay, which suggests that King Solomon is white. There's a long story as to why that is, but the bottom line is the Bible, I've said it many times, is by ball. It needs the African martial art interpretation by the last valid martial arts, the true African martial art order. Everything else is them putting on a show. It's like Hollywood. It's like saying, is Van Damme the top martial artist? Can you imagine him trying to lead the martial art world morally? It's laughable. He can't do it. Jackie Chan couldn't do it. Jet Li couldn't do it. There isn't a single Hollywood star, Michael J. White, not a single one who is anywhere near morally qualified to lead the martial art order into the light. It's insane. The guys that you're presented as the experts are nowhere near spiritual, nowhere near morally qualified, nowhere near genetically qualified. They're not from this martial art line, period. It's an Har war, right? Air war, horse, Har where? Air war, air where? Where are you from? You see in the ghetto, right? Where are you from? Okay? I'm from the royal lineage in the true martial art order of all orders, the King of Kings line. Okay? So the church is faced with a whole bunch of trouble. They have a Bible that is compiled for the purpose of white supremacy, of this kind of Roman cult mystery school supremacy. This is the expected response. They made it during a time when most people couldn't read. The sages, this is where you get the wordplay, the sages who are concerned with words, symbols, and magic spells. Vowel, L, alphabet. They're trying to make the beta sage the alpha. Right? Turn lead into gold. Lead into G, the earth deity, old. They're trying to make it so a bunch of titties flapping in the wind, old beta guys are the guys you listen to. And of course, America and the West has a long history of these young, attractive females dating these old farts who are sexually immoral and obviously depraved. Obviously, they never grew up, even though they're like 70 years old. Just utterly pathetic, little childish, meek, just despicable, not necessarily meek, but despicable shell of men. Okay, so we know them by their works. Their works are bitch. Almost immediately, we can throw out the Bible. Almost immediately, we can throw out the church. It's testifying against itself. Your works are putting brothels in the Vatican. Your works are sexually immoral. Your works are the Klan, eugenics. We can go on and on about the works of the various churches. They are allowed by the God of this world because they are satanic, and they have been allowed for quite some time. Not because God magically took their side. It's because they sided with oppressors and crooked governments. And to this day, there's American flags in churches. It's July 4th, by the way. And obviously, We'll get to that, I'll make another video, okay? So logic and morals, okay? People do not apply logic, nor do they apply morals. The oppressor race is basically saying to all the races they colonize, with technology, depravity, and underhanded tactics like putting smallpox on the Native Americans' blankets, wiping out, the intentional wiping out of a race to make room for this wicked oppressor colonialist movement, okay, that continues to this day. Their logic is appalling. There's like an elephant that fills up the whole room and you're like squeezed against the wall and they're like, don't notice it, don't notice it. It's stupid. Their morals are extremely lacking. Just utter liars, just pure Western snakes. What have they done? They've made systems that completely give them the upper hand. They completely, and a bunch of sarcastic hellspawn making fun of people that are different at every turn. Left and right and middle. You don't speak their language, which is more associated for their brain and body structure. They make fun of you. Use proper grammar. You don't wear their clothes that are made by them as well as they do. They make fun of you. The ugly duckling effect. They've made sure that the righteous hero is going to be an ugly duckling. They hung the saints in this country, so to speak, for generations. And they continue that same act of treachery. The American spirit is the spirit of snaking and killing the righteous and being indifferent. Even according to their own history, less than 3% of Americans are said to fight in the Revolutionary War. Then all these people, all the children of those who basically didn't fight, are the masses of the people who say, woohoo! How is that your holiday? That is like Judas saying that Jesus' crucifixion was an event that has him front and center. That is his event. He's the traitor. He didn't stand with him. He didn't stand with him in the Spirit of God. He betrayed him. The 4th of July is the holiday of traitors who have betrayed other people who were in the wrong. They were Native American killing, slave owning dogs with no heart and no understanding of God, who made a secular nation that says you will not include truth and the divine order in your nation. Only the sex cult garbage from the Masonic secretion society. To know someone biblically, how much more in the occult? The tree of knowledge, sacred societies, and Ivy League schools like that lowly Professor Weishaupt. Just pure trash. They refuse to concede these things. As churches, as people that call themselves men of God, they refuse to stand by me. They refuse to stand by the righteous. It was their followers that conspired to kill Martin Luther King. They've always put racial supremacy and their penises above God. Always. It never failed. You can rely on that they will put racial supremacy before God. And they will pretend that they're not. Even the racists in the Klan who pose as cops, they pretend that they're not putting racial supremacy first. The Klan and the racist hate groups that pose as preachers, they pretend they're not putting racial supremacy first. Their own people are on record saying that churches have become racist. There's a Christian identity movement that's said to be started, or at least partially started, by prison gangs, putting criminality and racism first. The other churches, you can't tell the difference between the two because they all do that. In terms of energy, in terms of direction. They refuse to accept the obvious truth that one must hone the senses. How do you know that it comes from God and not the evil one? In their movies, when Jesus is questioned, they have this illustrated. How do you know that his powers doesn't come from the evil one? He says, oh, why would the evil one want me to see this beautiful world when Jesus cured this guy of his blindness? How do you know? How do you know your argument about God doesn't come from the devil, especially when you come from a long lineage of racism, evil, genocide, and rape? Your churches plug little kids They historically fool their congregations who are supposed to be so in touch with God to the point where they trust Him with their children even though they're raping them quite often. How do you know that your narrative doesn't come from the devil himself, according to your own perspective? But nonetheless, they reject my argument of martial arts refined senses. Why? Because the white man didn't do martial arts. He put on armor and he swung his sword and his spear like a brute. He didn't ever refine his thinking. That's why they reject the argument. Because they want to put their race first before God himself. I mean, look at who are these people? Who are they? Like Gaddafi said, he said, "Man, Antum, who are you?" Who are they? They are a military-industrial complex type of bitch. They lack the moral courage to do the right thing. Time after time, the military, with all due respect, if any is due, they go to war for the wrong reasons. Why would any sane alpha sign up for a military to go pick on some people and rape some people in an underdeveloped, helpless nation? Why would any decent man do that? Because they salute the devil when the corner salute. They salute the devil when they salute their ranking and file. Just like this holiday, 4th of July, it is a beta spirit. Look at those little beta flags, little beta vehicles, beta families. Hi, guys. It's a beta spirit. Beta is scrambled is beast. It's a secular nation that has accepted the world energy and rejects the Spirit of God. That's what it means to be in rebellion. To accept world energy from the God of this world and the cultures that are allowed and the nation God despises because he judges them by their works. That's what it means to be in rebellion. It's the very essence of rebellion. Rejecting the Spirit of God and saying, "Look at me," like the devil trying to play Christ. Who were the Klan? Former military, former Confederate generals. There's not much difference between them and the Union. Their culture was almost exactly the same. Their uniforms very similar. The military sabotage, underhanded, KKK military, neo-Nazi. How do they dress up like the military? Rome, a kind of military state. Which senator has more weight? Who has more? The legions have their allegiance to him, right? Religion, raw legion versus Roman sex cult run legion, with the standard being the eagle. Not even the dove in the Bible. The dove of Ishtar or the dove as interpreted by the Christian, which seems to be both the more I think about it. Not the falcon of Horus the hero, but the eagle of Rome, the eagle of the Nazis, the eagle of America, the eagle of Zeus, King Rape himself. Christ's image. How could he look like that? It's the look at me sex cults. Why do you think there's so many people that look like that image? Because they have their own reproductive cultivation, sexual cult cycle going on. The churches have the psychology of the guilty, selfish cowards. Is it brave to come together and to hang an old black lady from a tree? They think it is. They stand there all the time. Yeah, we did that. That kind of cheating nonsense is what I've been arguing against, why women are like, "Oh, you're so manly," acting like bitches, taking their part. Think about it. Guilty, selfish, coward psychology. They refuse to admit basic components of the Christian argument. Morality, repentance. Even the Bible has the exact phrase, ill-gotten gains. Who should interpret it? Those who are standing on a pile of dead bodies of poor people, oppressed people, and who are built with the semen of rape, with dripping with ill-gotten gains, and satanic Luciferian energy that they're openly embracing these days. Should they interpret the Bible? America is a beta. The world is becoming betas and beta-minded brutes. It's pretty much what everyone else is. The privileged middle class that focuses on the contrast, controlling the opposition. That's how far they've gone. They refuse to be corrected. Billions of Christians, they can't come together, and they historically refuse to be corrected by men of God. They don't come together. They're divided into different satanic groups that are allowed by this country.